Joining me now with more is Ben Portnoy. He is college sports reporter for Sports Business Journal. Ben, thanks so much for joining. And as we talk about some of the changes that we've seen this year, how have you seen NIL evolve, specifically in college football, over its inception since 3 years ago?
Yeah, certainly there's no shortage of things going on in college sports these days, and NIL has been a big piece of this, along with the realignment we talked about just a minute ago. I think when it comes to NIL, look, I think college sports have become, for lack of a better term, increasingly professionalized, right? I think you've got a system that for so long has basically said for 100 years that college athletes shouldn't be paid. They shouldn't be able to profit off of what they're able to do on the field. There's marketing investments, whatever variation you want to call it. And you've now got a system in place where, players like Jalen Milroe or whoever it might be, with these high major programs are making millions of dollars off of endorsement deals. I think it completely flipped the landscape. I think it's, certainly there's always been inequities in college athletics as far as, some programs have had bigger, shinier facilities and things like that, but now we're focused on something different. It's just purely the money, and I think that's the big change that you've seen in the last few years.
We've seen, as I mentioned, more teams in the college football playoff, and of course that leads to more players in the spotlight during a busy time of high viewership. I'm talking about late December, early January. What new NIL-related opportunities could that present for players? Is there a way to quantify it?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify, but I do think that, look, if you're playing on the grandest stage in college football, that's appealing to brands and to sponsors and things like that, right? I think that this is a opportunity for not only players, coaches, schools, all of it, to be able to build around a program and a system in the college football playoff that's obviously going to have more access for more teams and more programs. And I think that, generally speaking, that's a good thing, right? It affords a stage that was only given to 4 programs a year previously, and now we're going to have a system in place that has 12. And I think that, generally speaking, I think that's a really good thing for college football and college athletics.
I want to talk more about the Super Conference era, which we're now in. More matchups between top teams each season. How do you think we see revenue tied to higher viewership benefiting some of these players?
Yeah, well, I think, look, in the simplest terms, right, a lot of this realignment's driven by television executives and television deals and sort of the money that comes through the rights deals. I think that when you look at it, the SEC is a more valuable product when Texas and Oklahoma are a part of it. I think that's the super base level, but I think that when you talk about adding viewership and some of these super conference matchups, I think that you go from what was previously sort of neutral site, non-conference games, the first few weeks of the season. Now you're going to have Ohio State and Oregon playing each other in the middle of October, as opposed to the first week of September. And, the same thing goes for Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to have Tennessee in week 4 or 5. So, those are games that previously were kind of reserved for the beginning of the season, and now you're going to have those in the middle of the season. That only stands to add to viewership. It stands to add to sort of the value that those games create for sponsors. And, people love big-time matchups, and you're going to get a lot more of it.
All right, Ben, I saved the best for last. Top athletes and teams to watch as college football gets underway. Who are they? What are they?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm gonna go with Ohio State. I think they're my national championship pick right now. They've got a lot of big names. Have done a really good job sort of keeping that team together in the transfer portal. We can talk about the financial piece of it. It's a program that's bankrolling a roster with around $20 million. So you're looking at a team that, for lack of a better term, as good as money can buy. And I think that a lot of folks in Columbus are really excited about the program and have their sights set on national championship this year.
The Ohio State. Do I have it right?
I think you got it. That was good.
The Ohio State. Ben Portnoy with Sports Business Journal. Thanks so much for joining.